right. Evie and I are back with a new Destiny video. Evie, you yawning? Okay. She would probably stay here the whole video if I kept doing this, so we'll see if I actually end up stopping you. What are you doing? Okay. Um, Today I wanted to talk about something that's not really related to the new season per se. It's just kind of a trend I've noticed with Destiny, and I kind of wonder where it is we're going exactly, and what the future of the game holds. Obviously, Bungie is committed to Destiny for the long term. They have made that much clear. We have three more expansions mapped out already, like that much we know. And then the implication is that Destiny will evolve into a new game, or they will transform it in some significant way, something like that. So I'm not worried about like Destiny being around. I am just sort of wondering what form it will take because the current trend is a little weird. This is mostly revolving around the Destiny content vault and things that are coming out of it and things that are going into it. Right now, we just learned that Vault of Glass is coming back, but it is not coming back with any sort of story reason. It's pretty much just appearing as its own instance. Like Venus is not coming back. I'm not super surprised about that. That we're not getting into the patrol zone, but it's just kind of this exists. There wasn't too much story stuff attached directly to the actual Vault of Glass like mission. Like it's not a real it's not a dialogue heavy raid or anything. Like it's not really what raids were back then. So that sort of makes sense, but it's also continuing this trend of things returning from Destiny 1 that just don't connect to the current story in any capacity. And in this case, it felt like, okay, maybe there's going to be a reason we got to go to the Vault of Glass and like pull something out of time and get some weapon to fight Savathun, and this is going to be like a Vex focus season. That does not appear to be happening. I mean, it could be a Vex focus season, but that makes me doubt it now, and then that makes me believe more about the rumors of Season of the Splicer, which would be a Fallen season, if Vault of Glass is just going to be kind of standalone by itself. We also saw this happen with the last two strikes that came here, the Devil's Lair and Fallen Saber. Those showed up in the Cosmodrome without any updates other than just changing enemies around a little bit and adding champions for Nightfalls. Had all the old dialogue, even though it no longer makes any amount of sense. Not entirely unusual, considering Destiny 2 still has strikes where, like Kate is alive and things like that. So it's not like exactly new territory, but it does feel a little weird, and it does feel like they're getting away from what this initially appeared like it was going to be. When the Cosmodrome came back, it seemed like they had it was a part of the story. Like it was mainly a place for new lights to come and learn the ropes, but it was like happening in the current timeline. And the new light thing sort of all culminated in the new Disgraced strike, which replaced the old Omnigul strike. So like it was that strike, but it wasn't Omnigul, it was a new enemy, and it had a new storyline to go with its arrival. And then even in this season, like we have a battleground that is taking place in the Cosmodrome in present day. So like it came back, and it feels like it's kind of integrated into the story to a certain extent. But that did not happen with the following two strikes. It did not happen with Vault of Glass, or is not happening with Vault of Glass as far as we know. And I mean, they pretty much said that explicitly. And so we just have this like Destiny 1, year one content back here. And conversely, we keep losing stuff that is like kind of D2 vanilla era, like vanilla plus era content to the content vault. And we would assume that this is going to continue in the future. Like we will lose something when the Witch Queen arrives. I don't know what that will be exactly. Some people think it will be the EDZ, because the idea is that maybe we're going to Old Chicago with the swampland there, so that would be like 3 Earth zones, and the EDZ might be a little too similar to it. Other people think it could be the entire Forsaken expansion, which would be the Dreaming City and the Tangled Shore, because that has all these confusing storylines where Aldrin is a bad guy, and that Bungie has said explicitly that they think that can be confusing to new players, so we could lose that. But like the point is like, so I'll do this way. We're introducing like Destiny 1 content as Destiny 1 content, and then we keep getting new Destiny 2 content like continually, like adding this way. But what we're doing is we're carving out the middle of the game. So we have this really weird situation where Destiny 2 is essentially going to be like these two pieces with like a giant hole in the middle of it. because they're always going to keep adding new stuff that, extends the storyline further. Wait, the new stuff's over here, right? I lost track of what I was doing. But there's going to be, but the Destiny 1 stuff they're bringing back, they're just bringing it back like straight up from Destiny 1, just to have like, here is a new activity you can run and new loot from that, but not in a way that is meaningful to the story and stuff. And this just seems weird to me. Like, I understand why they don't want to devote tons and tons of resources to bringing all this Destiny 1 stuff back and like fully integrating it into the story and stuff when they could be making new stuff, but it does create this weird situation where they are essentially cutting out the middle of the game in a way that is going to be increasingly weird as more stuff is added from Destiny 1 and more stuff is taken out from the middle, especially if none of that stuff appears to be coming back in any meaningful capacity. Like, we haven't gotten word that any of the content vaulted stuff from Destiny 2 is on the table to come back. So we don't know if that will ever happen. Presumably when it went in there, the idea was that it could return someday. Like, we could just see Leviathan show back up and those raids are back and somewhat different now and Menagerie's back. But like, that hasn't happened, and I don't know if that will ever happen or if that's the plan. So this leads to a situation where it's just the elimination of the Red War campaign is still just so fundamentally weird to me, and I feel like it has really kind of broken the new player free-to-play experience, because like, I know they have the Shahan quest now, and yes, technically that is a better intro to all your skills and things like that, but losing what is like an actual campaign, like a true campaign, as something free-to-play players can run through, is really disorienting, because you finish the little Shahan thing, you're just kind of like thrown into the tower, and like, you can just run playlists, and that's more or less it. And then if you want to do actual story content, you would have to own Shadowkeep and Forsaken, which are still not free. I can't believe Forsaken's not free yet. I have to imagine that's coming soon. It would probably be made free before they deleted it from content vaulting. But again, it's the same thing. Like, if you cut out Forsaken, which is the next kind of logical thing to go, maybe after the EDZ and Nessus, like, you're just creating this yawning gap in the middle of the game that is very strange. This isn't like the world I envisioned for Destiny, and it's kind of bumping up against like the realities of technical stuff, but also like decision making I'm like somewhat questioning. Like, I personally have no problem if Destiny like balloons in size to, over 100 gigabytes or 150 or whatever. Like, if Call of Duty can be like 250, like, yeah, I'll devote a huge chunk of my hard drive to Destiny. Like, I don't really care about that. Some of the content vaulting stuff seemed to be like more technical stuff that I don't fully understand, but it was like, we did all these underlying changes and stuff. But my hope was like they would kind of take stuff out, like scrub it up and make it their new system, and then put it back in the game once it was like better optimized or whatever. But that doesn't seem to be what's happening. And then the stuff they're introducing from Destiny 1 is just like kind of pure nostalgia hits. And like, yes, I will fundamentally agree that it is better to have, say, like Devil's Lair exist in Destiny 2 than to not have a strike, or it's better to have Vault of Glass back with its encounters and with its loot, presumably, than not have it back. And yet, I still think I can describe that as weird, when there probably could have been a way to write this into a story and not just be this very strange flashback from like, what is it, 6 years ago or something, to a raid that has essentially no context. Like, it had very little story impact at the time, even, because Destiny 1 vanilla story was just a mess completely. And so they had cool aesthetics, cool encounters, all that, but like the story components, it's like the whole Praetus fire team, like that was more or less it. And like that story had to be kind of built on over time. And then for new players that didn't play Destiny 1, like seeing the Vault of Glass now and then just getting no context for what this is really or anything about it would be strange. So I think there could have been a way to integrate it into the story, but I am not a narrative person, and I understand that narrative stuff in video games is very hard, because you have to balance all these different gameplay things with like long-term plans, and like, how does the Vault of Glass fit into, the Savathûn invasion in the darkness and stuff? Like, you might have to, bend your back a little bit to make that fit. But it's more about the general trend of like, this just kind of keeps happening. And so like, I'm wondering, like, okay, the Dreadnought shows back up, That's the one area I think from Destiny 1 that everyone really wants to see back. Dreadnought shows up, King's Fall returns. Like, is that really not going to have a story component to it? Like, if it comes back, like that would, with all the stuff we're doing with Savathûn and the Taken and Darkness and whatever, like, I can think of so many different reasons that we would go back to the Dreadnought and, try to utilize it as a weapon or find some ancient hive secrets or something to aid us in our current battle. But like, it would be so weird if that showed up with like a couple of its strikes and Alakul the Darkblade and Oryx and all that stuff, and like it was just the same as it was essentially. And at that point, it's like, and then on the other side, then we're adding old Chicago and like new areas and new planets and future expansions and stuff. And meanwhile, we're still chopping stuff on the middle. So it gets, you're introducing, I'm not going to do my hand thing again because I forgot which direction it is, but like you just keep introducing Destiny 1 stuff with no context other than maybe the base context it had in Destiny 1. But even that is less than it was because it's not like really a part of a campaign anymore. And then you have the new kind of forward progress stuff that just keeps getting further and further away, but you're chopping more and more out of the middle. And that just, it seems very weird. And like the perfect world is everything from Destiny 1 and everything from Destiny 2 stays and is in one game and just keeps expanding. And they just keep adding to it. That is not possible. They said they cannot do that. And yet the alternative system does not seem great either, where it's this weird mix of old content without context and new content that does move the story forward. And this is like more than just a one-off thing, clearly, with the last two strikes. Like, this is kind of becoming a pattern now that Vault of Glass is purported to do the same thing. And that has me wondering about things like the Dreadnought and other stuff that they might introduce in the future. So I don't know. I don't know if the answer is to just like stop doing this Destiny 1 stuff and just like use whatever energy you were focusing on that on like new stuff, even if it is not quite as cost effective, because it is obviously easier to kind of re-render stuff that was already made, even if it was like last gen, than it is to create entirely new stuff completely from scratch. Like, I get that would be maybe a more efficient use of time, but like just introducing activities for their own sake, I feel like that has its limits. And if we suddenly have like 5, 6, 7 Destiny 1 strikes in the game with all their old dialogue, like, or like 2 or 3 Destiny 1 raids with all their old, with nothing really changed fundamentally, like it's just so weird to me, and that's not really what I want or how I want Destiny to evolve. A lot of people are kind of saying like this isn't as big of a deal as I'm making it. I know some other people that are more on my side, and like Bife, Mr. Loremaster, is I don't think he really likes things showing up in Destiny without any story context to them, as you might imagine, which I've seen him say. So like, I don't think I'm fully alone in this, and I don't know. We'll see what happens with Vault of Glass. People keep saying like, oh, well, maybe it could be integrated into the story without there being like dialogue inserted into it, and like that gets into kind of confusing territory because like Vault of Glass exists outside time, so maybe there will be some dialogue about like going there, even if there's no like elaborate dialogue found throughout the grade or something. So I guess we'll see what happens, but they made it pretty clear that this was not really a story edition, and it is likely to be separate from the season story. I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens and how many things are going to continue to be added. I don't know if anything else from Destiny 1 will be added before Witch Queen. I mean, maybe, but I don't really know what else that would be at this point. I don't even know if there's anything left to add from the Cosmodrome other than the Plague Lands, but I think they made it pretty clear that they're not going to expand the Cosmodrome anymore. And like, part of me, it also kind of just feels like they're making this up as they go along. Like, the original plan was to introduce the Cosmodrome in pieces and then expand it, and then later they're like, is that really worth it? Like, should we even bother expanding it? We're not going to do that. And then they just didn't. So I don't even know if they fully know like what the plan should be for Destiny 1 content, but this kind of weird middle ground where we're scooping out the middle of Destiny 2, adding new content, and then adding D1 content on its own is very strange. So that's just kind of what's been bothering me a little bit. I don't really know how to articulate it better than that, but it's I don't know. I don't love it, and I guess I'm excited to play Vault of Glass and get all the old gear and stuff like that. But this just keeps kind of pulling at me, and I don't know how much more of this I want to see in terms of continuing to add D1 stuff without context. So That's my thoughts. Let me know if you disagree, but that's what I got for now. We will check in the next few days, as probably new season stuff is going to start to be revealed, probably at the latest by next reset, I would imagine, at least like the name reveal or something. So we'll see. But all right, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys later.